Alright, so I'm going to be working on the WJ again today. So a few months back I put this rough country long arm kit on, and I'm overall pretty happy with it. But the one thing that I found about this is the flex joints for the ends of the control arms aren't the best. Apparently it's a pretty common problem with this rough country kit, and they wear out kind of fast. These are just, they're making noise. I can move it back and forth. It's still perfectly, probably perfectly safe, not going to go anywhere. But I mean, it clicks and it rattles when I drive down the road, and that bugs me. So I'm going to do something about that. So what I did is I got these joints from Barnes, which, from what I've found, my research should thread right into the ends. We'll see if I'm right or not. But yeah, so I'm going to put those on instead. And that should take care of that problem, hopefully. So I got to get the upper control arm disconnected because this is a radius arm style, and so I can't droop this arm down very far with the upper control arm. But if I pull this bolt out where it connects to the lower, that should just slide forward, and that arm should be able to droop down, and I should be able to get to the flex joint. Alright, so the reason it's so important for me to get that out of there, I could have just pried on it, but I need to know the length here, so I mean, technically I need to know the length of the entire arm, but I'm going to measure between the end of the arm and the center of the eye, assuming I can get it centered, so that I know how long to make the other joints. Approximately. It needs to go about like that. It doesn't have to be perfect as long as I get both sides the same, right? 3 1/4. Alright, so here's a look at the rough country joint and the Barnes side by side. The rough country has a lot of thread on it already. The Barnes, you see, even has more. Looks like they're about the same size, which is what I wanted. Three 1/4 right there. Okay, I'm going to do something else here. I'm going to count. I'm going to put it in all the way, and then I'm going to count how many turns out, so that when I do the other side, I can do it the same. Five turns. So now if I do 5 turns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I should have it right where it was, at right about 3 1/4. And we do. Alright, now I'm going to bring it out a little bit more because I want to move my axle forward like maybe 1/4 of an inch. So that was 5. So let's see. 6, 7.
8. There we go. So now I'm almost exactly at 3.5, which is 1/4 inch past where I was before. The reason I want to do that, well, on a previous excursion, when my spring came out, we moved the axle backwards a little bit because we weren't sure if that was causing the spring to come out. Turns out it wasn't. So anyway, I'm just putting it back forward a little bit more because that gives me just a little more clearance right here on the back side. And if it doesn't work, well, I'll just move it back in again. That's the nice thing about these, the radius style arms. You can adjust the lower control arm and it moves the entire axle forward and back. Doesn't change your angle or anything because the upper control arm is on the lower, and so your pinion angle is set based on that. So as long as you don't change the length of your uppers, you're going to move your entire axle and not change the angle. Alright, I'm going to... yeah, now I got to try and get that back in now that I moved the axle forward though. It's going to be fun. Actually, it's not going to be that bad. Yeah, I just need to get this up in here and then move the entire axle forward and that should line up. It's a tight fit. Looks like it's not straight. That might be why. Go. Ta-da! Alright, now I just need to get the axle moved up slightly so that it fits. Alright, so I'm going to try and get the lower arm to line up in its bolt hole first, and do that, the axle needs to go forward. In order to get this out, I actually have a jack on the front of the axle, moving it back and forth. I'm pushing on the upper control arm tower and moving it back and forth. So I'm going to release some of the pressure, and that'll hopefully bring this back to where I want it. Ooh, look at that, that is almost perfect. Look at that. Couldn't have worked out any better. Alright. Now, I need to do something similar with my upper though. I don't know if you can tell or not. Right there is the bolt. You see it in the hole right there. That needs to come back more. And so now, I'm going to do the same thing. Since I got that jack on the upper control arm mount, as I push on it, it should bring this back, but not be lower because it's bolted in place. System moves. Alright. One down. Alright, so this other side was way easier to get apart. I don't know why. Anyway, let me show you what I got going on here and why I want to take these off and replace them. So the other side was actually one of the ones that didn't have this problem yet. But on this side you can see it clearly. I don't know. I can move that right there. I don't know if you can see it going back and forth. There it is. It's side-to-side motion right there. And so, as you're driving down the road and going over little bumps, this thing is rattling back and forth, just going and making a little rattle noise. It's not a lot, and like I said, it's probably not a problem, but these have only been on here, I don't know, maybe 6 months, and there's just, they've rattled since day one. I think it's just the way they are, and it is what it is. But that's why I'm going to put these other Barnes joints on it, and then hopefully we won't have that problem. And just to be clear, these joints work fine. They flex good. It doesn't feel bad on the road or anything like that. It just rattles, you know. And that's what I'm trying to get rid of. You can see now, right here, the side to side, right there. Just a little bit causes a rattle. Like I said, they work fine off-road and on-road. I haven't had any issues with them. It's just the rattle bugs me, so I'm going to take care of it. Alright, we got the new joints on the front. I'm done. I still got to do the rear, which there's 2 on each side on the lower, and then there's 1 on the upper A-arm. Probably that might be all I do for today. I'm gonna go eat some lunch, and I got some other non-Jeep related stuff to do. So anyway, I got the front 2 done, so let's start. Alright, so it's another day. It's actually been quite a few days since I did the front flex joints on the lower control arms on the front, but I've got the rears to do still. There's 3 joints on the rear, 2 for the lower and 1 for the upper. Got them here somewhere. There we go. There they are. So those are my 2 and my 3rd. So I'm going to do a little bit of that tonight. We'll see how it goes and how many I get done. So these Barnes joints come with this flush mounted grease fitting, which works really good for like the lower links. I'll show you here on the front ones. So there you go. It works real nice because then you have less chance of catching that on stuff. But the upper link in the rear, don't have a problem. I'm not going to catch that. And also these flush mounted ones, when you put grease in, you got to maintain pretty good pressure with the grease gun attachment to, you know, get the grease in there. As far as the top one though, the angle to get the grease gun in there straight on the flush mounted one would be hard, and there's no chance of hitting the top one, you know, on rocks or anything because it's up there. And so I'm just going to install a standard grease fitting in there instead. And I'll show you what I mean when I take the old one out, like where that one's at and stuff. Alright, so I got that figured out. Got grease in it. You can see it's starting to come out a little bit there, so I think that's how you know you put enough in. We'll find out. Put it in. So I'm just trying to get the body up in the air a little bit so I have more room to work underneath there. I want to keep the Jeep mostly on the ground because then it's supported and, you know, it shouldn't shift too much when I disconnect these. But I also want to have the body supported separately because when I take these arms on and off, I may need to jack the axle up and down in different directions in order to get it to line up again. On the back of the gas tank skid plate here, there's some shiny spots. So my truss, not my brake line thankfully. Anyway, the truss has been slightly rubbing on that. So when I put this top one back in, I'm just going to tip it. I'm going to bring it a little further in, which should tip my axle slightly down, but it should be fine still. And that should give me the clearance I need there. This just got more complicated. I don't think there's enough room to unscrew this thing all the way because I'm hitting the gas tank right now. Even if I go up a little higher, it just doesn't look like there's enough room because that shank is all the way into here. That's going to come out significantly, which means I have to remove this entire upper control arm.
which isn't terrible, but I got to unbolt all these brake lines and everything that's bolted onto it. So, all right. And then there's 2 bolts here and over here to tie it into the body. So it looks like that's what I have to do though. So, all right. Success! Control arm out. Alright, I'm gonna get this out from under the Jeep and then I'll continue with what I set out to do, replacing this. Alright, let's get this thing out of here. I started with the upper one because I figured it would be the toughest, and sure enough, I think I was right, so I'm glad I started with that. Did not anticipate that I was gonna have to take that whole thing out, but still wasn't that terrible. So let me get this out of here now. All in all, I'm pretty happy with the rough country kit. I know some people don't like rough country, but whatever. I think it's so far it's fine. The only downside being these joints don't last. Yeah, so really the main downsides that I've heard about this rough country kit are people don't like the shocks, and these flex joints just don't last. When I did this, I did not get the rough country shocks or springs. I bought the long arm upgrade kit, and then I got 6-inch coils from Clayton, and I got Bilstein shocks from Iron Rock for a 6-inch lift. So if I were to do this again, I probably would have just put the Barnes joints in right away. So, you know, unless you like tearing all this out. Alright, so I looked at the instructions for this rough country kit, and it says to measure from the flat edge of the center brace to the center of the joint, and they say 7 3/8. So when I measure that, I have 3/4, 7 3/4. When I put these in, I put about a 1/2 inch more length on the links than what they said in the kit, because I was doing a 6-inch lift and the kit specifications were for 4 inches. And so I put, you know, I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll put about a 1/2 inch in and see where that works. And it seems to have worked out just fine. But obviously this one tipped my axle slightly far back. So the new one, if I bring it back to 7.5, or even 7 5/8, that should be just fine. I'm gonna try 5/8. I'm gonna see, because I only, you know, just barely scraping. All right, so I'm gonna do that. So that is 7 5/8. So I'm gonna try that. And see how it works. And hopefully that'll be enough that I'm not rubbing my truss on my gas tank skid plate anymore. So this is interesting. Check this out. Look how far off that is. So apparently the body and the axle has shifted since I took this apart. So since this is a, I guess it would be a triangulated 3-link, because it's got this upper A-arm, there's no track bar on this type of suspension. So when you disconnect that top link, that's what keeps the axle from shifting left to right. And so apparently when I jacked it up and disconnected it, well, the axle shifted in relation to the body. So now I need to get the axle that way, or get the top link over that way. So let me see what I can do to figure that out. I just want to show you. I don't know. I think it's probably amusing to me. I don't know if it's as amusing as I think it is, but this is where my head's at while I'm doing this. Jammed up in here, in between the in the tunnel, between the drive shaft. Just barely fits. Just rub my ears on there as I'm going in and out. Yeah, that's how much clearance I got under here right now. It's pretty awesome. Alright, well that took a while to get that top joint in. It was a little more involved than I was thinking of. I didn't realize I was going to have to take the whole upper control arm out, but I got it in, and so I still got to do the joints on the lower control arms on the rear, but that's going to wait till another night because it's late. I'm tired.